The wild horse is our nation's symbol of freedom. Mustangs partnered with man in the settling of the West, plowing our fields and carrying us into battle. Now, for the first time in history, there are more wild horses, 36,000, locked up for life in government holding facilities than roam free on the range. The Bureau of Land Management, the BLM, claims 33,000 still roam the public land. But wild horse advocates claim there could be half this number. On September 15, 2009, the BLM released its roundup schedule for 2010. Over 10 months in 9 western states, their goal was to remove nearly 12,000 wild horses from public lands. The largest herd area scheduled for a roundup was the Calico Mountain Complex in northwest Nevada, to begin in December of 2009. The BLM planned to remove over 2,500 Calico horses. In response to the roundup announcement, lead attorney Bill Spriggs with the prominent international law firm Buchanan, Ingersoll & Rooney filed a pro bono lawsuit on behalf of In Defense of Animals, a California nonprofit, to stop the roundup and removal of horses from public land. In this historic case, federal judge Paul Friedman gave a preliminary ruling in favor of IDA, stating these long-term holding facilities are likely illegal according to the Wild Free-Roaming Horses and Burros Act of 1971. In his December ruling, Judge Friedman suggested the BLM postpone the roundup until the long-term holding issue was settled. On December 28, 2009, the BLM chose to go ahead with the roundup. On May 24, 2010, Judge Friedman dismissed the IDA lawsuit on the technicality that the plaintiffs did not have sufficient standing, but not on the merits of the IDA's legal arguments.
The actual removal of these horses to Kansas and Oklahoma is illegal. Now that is an absolute, clear, black and white letter law. There's no question but what, there's no authority to move those horses to these zoo-like compounds.
The IDA team sees the trial as a victory and defeat. They will pursue their successful legal argument in future cases.
I don't think any group's ever done that.
Over 2,000 Calico Mountain horses that have been waiting on a judge's ruling in a government holding facility in Fallon, Nevada, can now be processed like livestock. Castrated, branded, and shipped to the Midwest for life. An off-the-range management strategy that costs the American taxpayer tens of millions of dollars every year. But now there's a solution on the table that can be a reprieve for the Mustangs, allowing them to return to their home on the range and save money. Under the pressure of future lawsuits, public protest, and a fiscal crisis, the BLM and its director Bob Abbey seem to be searching for a new way to manage the Mustangs.
The dialogue that's taking place is healthy. There's some controversy, certainly regarding the way the program's currently being managed, and rightly so. There is a better way of managing wild horses, and we think the Salazar strategy is one way. It may not be the only way. So, anyone who has an idea or a proposal, a specific proposal that they would like to share with the Bureau of Land Management, certainly I'm open to listening to them.
Answering the BLM's call, a unique partnership has developed between a rancher and a wild horse advocate, two groups that are normally on opposite sides of the fence. They have created a viable plan to manage the Calico Mountain horses while making range improvements. Their plan has been submitted to the Secretary of Interior, Ken Salazar.
I'm Jim Kuderna. I'm the owner of Soldier Meadows Ranch. We're located in the most beautiful part of Nevada, the very northwest corner, just bordered on the north by the Sheldon National Wildlife Refuge, and encompassing a large portion of what's best known as the High Rock Canyon Black Rock Desert National Conservation Area.
I'm Netta DeMeo, and I'm the founder of Return to Freedom, American Wild Horse Sanctuary, currently located in Lompoc, California. Return to Freedom is on 300 acres of private property in the Central Coast, California. We manage over 200 wild horses living in natural family bands, and we focus on education and conservation. I had limited resources. I had only 300 acres, but I said, what can I do that would make an impact and shift the way that we think about this? And I said, well, I could do this. I could say they live in herds and they suffer, and their social structure is so sophisticated, and they're so bonded just like we are. They're social mammals and they suffer greatly. And so we tried to duplicate, make a microcosm of, bachelor bands and stallion harem bands, etc., so that people could witness for themselves what we have out here and what we're losing and what we're destroying. It's a Band-Aid if we don't use it and tie it to the larger issue and the larger problem.
The basis of the discussions between myself and Netta on what can we do in this area, we want to set up this wild horse preserve such that we are able to actively participate in the management of the horse population out on this beautiful range that has plenty of forage, and we want to manage it in such a way that we are at the same time rebuilding the wildlife population.
Now we do have evidence from our monitoring of the range conditions that the range is not in good condition in the Calico complex.
We have no shortage of forage, even with 5,000 horses out on the range.
There's no conspiracy to remove horses from Nevada. If we believe that the range in Nevada can sustain the numbers of horses that are there today, we'd be leaving the horses out there ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And all we've got to do is go fix the water.
Right.
We just need the water spread out to where, and we need the water in sufficient quantity to where they can come to a nice little pond of water, get a drink, and take off. That's where those two creeks converge and come into the reservoir up there. There's flowing water there on a 24/7 year-round basis. The BLM did a survey of water sources that were functional in 1980 or 81, and we have that map. There were 1,000 and some odd different water sources in this region, and currently less than half of those are functional. We'll have many places that can be established as control centers where they're going to be able to actually observe and see what really happens on the range. And so far, that kind of study's not been done.
You may find that such studies do not exist. If they do not exist, then that's a deficiency in the program.
I don't think we have to spend all this money on gathering and all this money on helicopters and all this. Why don't we just spend it on fixing the things that are damaged instead and bringing the wildlife populations back, make it a destination where all of the people in the planet that want to see the wild horses really wild. How many? Maybe there could be 10,000. We've got 5,000 now. There may be able to be 10,000 horses. May be able to be 20,000 horses. I really honestly don't know.
The difference between long-term holding and on-the-range management, first of all, is the horses won't be forced through a Roundup process, separated by their gender and their age, and relocated somewhere that's completely foreign to their physiology, their psychology, and completely fractured. The tragedy of the wild horse, the plight of the wild horse in America, is that it is such a fixable problem.
We'd love to do it. We know we can do it for less tax dollars than they're spending to do it the way they're doing it now.
We had a sound proposal, one that would be within the abilities of the range to sustain, and that it would make sense to the American taxpayers. We would certainly give that serious consideration.
I think the BLM would benefit tremendously by being an active partner. These are our public lands too, and we care about them. We care about the species that live on them, and we care about the land itself.
Since the 1950s, the BLM has been criticized for its treatment of the wild horses. Critics claim the BLM favors powerful special interest groups like cattle, gas, and oil over the welfare of the Mustangs. Since the 1970s, the BLM has taken away over 20 million acres of land guaranteed to the Mustangs in the 1971 law. Setting aside the conflicts of the past and under a new administration, there is a plan on the table that is good for the range, good for the wildlife, good for the Mustangs, and good for the American taxpayer. What happens next is a concern for many Americans.